Beneath the ruined world above, humanity clings to life. The sunlight has long been a memory, the surface a graveyard patrolled by machines that show no mercy. In the city of Speranza, survival is not just a choice, it's a daily gamble. Every step outside the safety of the tunnels could be your last. Today, we descend into the underground haven, to walk the streets where fear and hope intertwine, and to understand how the last remnants of humanity endure in a world that seems determined to forget them. The name itself whispers in Italian, hope. And hope is exactly what Speranza represents, the last flickering candle in a hurricane that consumed the world above. It's the year 2180. The surface, what survivors now call topside, is gone. Not from nuclear fire or conventional war, but from something far more methodical. The ARC machines, autonomous recon combatants, fell from the sky like metallic rain, crash landing with the force of meteor showers. They didn't negotiate. They didn't explain their purpose. They simply began hunting, erasing humanity with cold mechanical efficiency. The cities fell first. Milan, Rome, Venice, the great monuments of human achievement reduced to rubble and rust. Then the screams stopped, and the world was buried under silence. Those who survived the first wave retreated underground, led by a resilient founder named Celeste. They burrowed deep beneath the former Italian landscape, discovering the subterranean remains of Toledo, an ancient city swallowed by time and sinkholes. Here, in collapsed buildings and forgotten infrastructure, they built their sanctuary. Speranza is the oldest neighborhood of what would become the underground metropolis. Colorful and lively despite the darkness above, it was originally established as an independent settlement at the start of the second wave, when ARC returned with a vengeance that made the first wave look like a scouting mission. As more survivors arrived from across the Rust Belt, the interconnected wasteland that now defines the surface, the settlement expanded into the buried remnants, forming the patchwork neighborhoods that make up modern Toledo. Walk through Speranza's main thoroughfare, and you'll see neon lights flickering against ancient stone walls. Cantinas buzz with hushed conversations. Workshops clatter with the sound of salvaged metal being repurposed into weapons and tools. Vendor stalls display meager goods, rations, water purification tablets, ammunition, all bartered and traded in an economy that runs on desperation and ingenuity. The architecture is a jarring collision of eras, medieval foundations supporting modern reinforcements, subway tunnels converted into living quarters, natural caverns expanded into marketplaces. Everything is kit-bashed, repurposed, made to work because it has to work. There are no second chances down here. In one corner, you might find Oyemi, the artisan who obsessively maintains her to-do lists, tracking every crafting blueprint with meticulous detail. Tracking crafting blueprints or quests can help you bring back the right loot, she'll tell anyone who listens, her voice carrying the weight of too many failed expeditions. Near the tube operator station, Valentina checks her schedule with mechanical precision. The longer you stay topside, the fewer ways back remain, she warns departing raiders, her words a constant reminder that time is always your enemy on the surface. This is home, a carved-out fragment of what used to be, now serving as the beating heart of human survival. Speranza isn't just a social hub or a safe zone, it's a living testament to human resilience, a defiant middle finger to the machines that claimed the world above. But survival here comes at a cost, and to understand that cost, you need to understand what life is really like in humanity's last refuge. Every morning, if you can still call the arbitrary cycles by that name, begins the same way in Speranza. The artificial lighting dims and brightens on a schedule meant to mimic the day-night cycle humans once took for granted. Children who've never seen real sunlight wake in cramped quarters, their skin pale from a life lived in perpetual twilight. Resources are the currency of existence. Water is filtered from underground aquifers, rationed carefully. Food comes from hydroponic gardens that struggle to produce enough calories, supplemented by whatever raiders can scavenge from topside. Old canned goods, military rations, anything that hasn't rotted away in the decades since the collapse. The social hierarchy is brutally simple. Those who go topside sit at the top. Raiders are the lifeblood of Speranza, the brave or foolish souls who venture into the killing fields above to bring back salvage, resources, and hope. They're not soldiers, they're not saviors, they're just people with nothing left to lose and everything to take. In the central plaza, you'll find traders like Tianwen and Apollo, middle-tier survivors who've carved out a living by funneling resources between raiders and civilians. They post quests on battered digital boards, requests for specific scrap, elimination of problematic ARC units, or delivery runs to outlying settlements that may or may not still exist. "Bring me 10 units of refined metal," Apollo might say, his voice worn from years of negotiation. "I know where an old munitions cache is, but I need something to trade for the access codes." Below the traders are the artisans and crafters, people like Oliami, who transform the rust and ruin raiders bring back into something useful. Weapons kit-bashed from ARC parts, armor fashioned from salvaged plating, tools cobbled together from whatever materials can be found. It's an economy built on scraps and prayers. At the bottom are those who can't contribute: the injured, the traumatized, the children too young, and the elderly too frail. They survive on the charity of others, a charity that grows thinner with each passing day. Let me tell you about Marcus. He was a raider once, one of the best. Made 3 runs a week to the buried city, always came back with his pack full and his crew intact. Then came the run to the Asera spaceport. He still doesn't talk about what happened up there, but when he returned, he was alone. His hands shake now when he works in the workshop, assembling circuit boards with a precision born from muscle memory that his broken mind can barely support. His crew? Their names are scratched into the memorial wall near the tube station, joining the thousands of others who never made it home. The memorial wall, that's where you truly understand the cost of survival. Names upon names, carved into ancient stone and modern composite alike. Some are elaborate, with full epitaphs with dates and quotes. Most are just names, scratched hastily by grief-stricken survivors who barely had time to mourn before preparing for their next run. But Speranza isn't just about loss. Humanity adapted, as it always does. On festival days, designated by Celeste and the Council to maintain morale, the main plaza transforms. Musicians play instruments salvaged from the old world or crafted from ARC parts that hum with an eerie metallic harmony. Children dance, their laughter a sound so rare it brings tears to older survivors' eyes. People share stories of the surface, of blue skies they remember or only heard about from parents who remembered. Eleonora, known as the dance-off expert, organizes these events with fierce determination. Many a tense situation has been de-escalated with the emote wheel, she jokes, but there's truth beneath the humor. In a world where violence is always one bad decision away, finding ways to connect peacefully matters. In the sleeping quarters, families huddle together in spaces barely large enough for a bed and a shelf. Privacy is a luxury no one can afford. You hear your neighbors' arguments, their nightmares, their intimate moments. You learn to tune it out, to find solitude in your own thoughts, even when surrounded by bodies pressed close in the darkness. Deadshot David, a raider with a self-coined nickname that no one uses seriously but everyone knows, spends his evenings at the firing range, a converted tunnel where people practice with ammunition they can barely afford to waste. "You're more accurate when standing still, and your duels look far more impressive," he tells newcomers. The braggadocio masks the terror. Every bullet you fire in practice is one less for topside, but every missed shot topside could be your last. The Raider Den is where individuals can claim a small corner of personalcy. As your level increases, as you prove yourself through successful runs, your den expands. You earn the right to customize it, to add decorations that remind you who you were before the world ended. Some keep photographs of families long dead. Others display trophies from particularly dangerous ARC units they've killed. And then there's Scrappy, the modified bot that scavenges on its own, bringing back trinkets and materials from the Rust Belt through means no one fully understands. It's a pet, a helper, a reminder that not all machines are enemies. Children gather around when Scrappy returns, eager to see what treasures it's found, their eyes bright with wonder that still exists despite everything. Gianni, a successful raider but unsuccessful plumber, a joke that gets repeated too often, sums it up best. "There are many problems bullets can't solve, or so I've learned." He learned that lesson when he tried to repair the water filtration system with an explosive charge. 3 days without clean water taught Speranza a harsh lesson about the limits of raider ingenuity. This is life in Speranza. It's not grand, it's not heroic in the traditional sense. It's thousands of small survival choices made every day by people who refuse to give up even when giving up would be so much easier. But to truly understand Speranza, you need to understand what drives people to leave it. You need to understand the threat that waits above. The tube station is always busy. Raiders coming and going, their gear battered and blood-stained, their eyes carrying the 1,000-yard stare of people who've seen too much. Valentina checks them through with practiced efficiency, each departure noted, each extraction window calculated. The longer you stay topside, the fewer ways back remain. That's not a metaphor. The surface operates on a brutal timer. Extraction points, raider hatches that provide quick, discrete routes back underground, have limited availability. Miss your window, and you're stranded. And being stranded on topside is a death sentence. Let me paint you a picture of what awaits above. The Rust Belt stretches across what was once South Calabretta, Italy. It's an interconnected wasteland of ruined megastructures, decaying cities and environments that shift from arid desert to toxic swamp without transition. The sun beats down mercilessly when it's visible through the dust clouds, but that's not what kills you. Arc machines patrol in patterns that seem random but carry an eerie intelligence. They come in various forms, each with distinct characteristics. Apollo units, flying drones that rely on thrusters to stay airborne. Take out the thrusters and they crash like metal rain. They patrol in wide circles, scanning for movement with sensors that can detect body heat from hundreds of meters away. Ground units, massive quadrupedal machines that thunder across the landscape like mechanical bears. Armored plating makes them nearly invulnerable from the front. Raiders have learned to aim for joints and sensor arrays, the weak points in their otherwise impenetrable design. Swarm units, small, fast, deadly. They travel in packs, overwhelming targets through sheer numbers. 1 or 2 you can handle. A dozen will tear you apart before you can reload. The dam battlegrounds exemplify the surface's cruel transformation. Once a raider stronghold during the first wave, where humanity held the line, it's now a poisoned nightmare of dense forests, murky swamps, and the ruins of an old research center and apartment blocks. Arc units nest in the power plant itself, using its infrastructure for purposes no one has deciphered. The water table is contaminated with machine oil and unknown chemicals. Raiders who venture there speak of a humming sound that never stops, emanating from the dam's depths like a metallic heartbeat. The buried city might be the cruelest zone of all, an entire pre-collapse metropolis swallowed by advancing sand dunes, its hospital wings and shopping malls and town squares now half exposed like bones in a desert. Raiders fight through alleyways that echo with memories, ghosts of people who didn't make it, whose final moments are preserved in the positions of their remains. Graffiti scrawls across crumbling walls tell stories of betrayal and desperation. Only the rich leave, make room for all. These aren't just vandalism, they're accusations. During the final days before the second wave, when the wealthy and powerful had access to potential escape routes, choices were made. People were left behind, not by chance, by choice. That bitterness lingers in every raider's heart as they loot the remnants of a civilization that abandoned them. The Asera spaceport represents humanity's broken dreams, a derelict launch facility where people once imagined leaving Earth for the stars, now a rotting monument filled with high-value technology buried beneath decades of decay. Arc units seem particularly concentrated here, as if guarding something. Raiders whisper theories. Did the machines come from space? Are they preventing humanity from escaping? No one knows, but the spaceport's treasures make it worth the risk. Zahir, a raider who learned his lessons the hard way, always reminds new recruits. Raider hatches get you home quickly and discreetly, so long as you have a key. Keys are precious, traded carefully, because they represent your lifeline back to Speranza. But here's the horrible calculus. Do you extract early with your loot secure, or push your luck for one more cache, one more salvage point, knowing that every minute you stay increases the chance you'll never leave? The weather itself is weaponized. Dust storms roll in without warning, reducing visibility to nothing, while your HUD flickers with electromagnetic interference. Raiders have reported seeing shadows moving in these storms, arc units that seem to thrive in conditions that blind humans. Rain brings acidic precipitation that eats through unprotected skin and degrades equipment. Even the clear days are dangerous because clear means visible, and visible means targeted. Then there are the other raiders. Because here's the truth no one likes to talk about. The biggest threat isn't always the machines. It's the other desperate souls fighting for the same resources. Rival squads who'll kill you for your loot, for your extraction key, or simply because they can. Spironza might be united in theory, but topside is every squad for themselves. You'll see them sometimes, distant figures moving through the ruins. Maybe they're friendly, maybe you can negotiate, trade, even cooperate against a particularly nasty arc unit. Or maybe they'll put a bullet in your back the moment you turn around. Every encounter is a risk assessment made in split seconds with incomplete information. The tension never releases. Your hands sweat inside your gloves, your heart pounds in your ears. Every sound could be an Apollo unit's thrusters spinning up. Every shadow could hide a ground unit preparing to charge. Your teammate signals something ahead. Is it salvage or a trap? Do you investigate or do you fall back? And always, the clock is ticking. Extraction windows closing, ammunition depleting, your stash filling with loot that's worthless if you die before delivering it. This is why Speranza exists. This is why people huddle underground despite the cramped quarters and rationed food. Because up here, on topside, you're not a person, you're prey. And the machines are very, very patient hunters. But humans are stubborn creatures. We go back. Again and again, we venture into the killing fields. Why? Because sometimes surviving means risking everything for just a little bit more. But that raises deeper questions, questions that haunt Speranza's corridors in the quiet hours. Questions about sacrifice, about ethics, about the cost of survival. In the medical bay, Dr. Reeves works under flickering lights that can't quite illuminate the blood on her hands. She's been operating for 14 hours straight, patching up raiders who made it back and trying to save those who barely did. The patient on her table is 23 years old. Her name is Sophia. She's been a raider for 4 months, long enough to get confident, not long enough to get smart. Her squad went to the Blue Gate region, the mountainous area where tunnel networks promise rich salvage but deliver death more often than treasure. They found a cache, military-grade supplies, enough to keep Speranza fed for a month. But they also triggered something, an ARC unit they'd never seen before, something new that moved faster than anything should. Sophia's squad leader made the call. Someone had to stay behind and draw it off, give the rest time to extract with the supplies. Sophia volunteered. She survived, barely, lost her left leg below the knee to the machine's cutting torch, made it to an extraction point through sheer willpower and a combat stim that should have killed her. The supplies made it to Speranza, 30 days of food, 1 leg. Dr. Reeves looks at the 17-year-old medical student assisting her, a girl who learned surgery by watching because there's no time for proper training, and asks the question that has no good answer. Was it worth it? The student doesn't reply, because what can you say? This is the calculus of Speranza. This is the math that keeps Celeste awake at night. In the council chamber, carved from ancient stone and lit by salvaged LEDs, Celeste faces her advisors. She's been the founder, the leader, the symbol of hope for so long that sometimes she forgets she's also just a person who's tired of making impossible decisions. "We need to increase raider quotas," says Marcus, not the traumatized former raider, but Marcus, the logistics coordinator. "The hydroponic gardens are failing. We need more nutrient solution, which means more surface runs." "We've already lost 12 raiders this week," counters Alina, the head of security. "Push harder and we'll lose more. How many deaths are acceptable for a bag of fertilizer?" "How many deaths from starvation are acceptable?" Marcus shoots back. Celeste raises her hand for silence. The gesture is tired. "We find a middle path. We always find a middle path." But the middle path is getting narrower. Resources are dwindling. The ARC machines seem to be evolving, getting smarter, more aggressive, and Speranza's population keeps growing as survivors trickle in from outlying settlements that couldn't hold. In one of the residential sectors, a family gathers for what passes as dinner. The parents, Louis and Mara, watch their son Alessandro push food around his plate. He's 15, old enough to understand they're on half rations this week because the latest supply run failed. Old enough to know next year, maybe the year after, he'll be eligible to join the raiders. "I want to help," Alessandro says quietly. "No," Mara responds immediately, her voice sharp with fear. "Someone has to." Louis meets his son's eyes. He sees himself there, 20 years ago, making the same argument to his own parents. They said no too. He went anyway. Lost friends, lost pieces of himself he'll never get back. But he also brought home supplies that kept his family alive. "When you're ready," Louis says, ignoring his wife's glare. "Not before." Is it right to send children, because 15 is still a child, into the killing fields? Is it right to ask people to sacrifice themselves for the collective? These aren't academic questions in Speranza. They're daily realities. Near the memorial wall, an old woman named Rosa comes every day to trace her fingers over a name. Thomas Reeves, aged 31, died in service. Her son, Dr. Reeves' brother. He was a raider for 7 years, survived longer than most, brought back enough supplies to earn his family a larger living space and better rations. Then one day his squad encountered a swarm attack near the spaceport. He had the extraction key. He could have made it. Instead, he stayed to cover his squad's retreat. 3 people made it home because of his sacrifice. Rosa doesn't know if she's proud or angry. Maybe both. Maybe that's all you can be in Speranza, a confusing tangle of grief and gratitude, knowing that every good thing comes stained with someone's blood. The ethical dilemmas multiply in the darkness. When resources are tight, who gets priority? The young, who represent humanity's future, or the experienced, who provide the best chance of successful supply runs? When a raider commits a crime in Speranza, theft, assault, worse, do you imprison them and lose their salvage capability, or do you forgive it because you can't afford the luxury of justice? Celeste's philosophy haunts the city. Survival requires risk, and hope demands action. But how much risk? How much action? At what point does survival stop being worth the cost? In the Raider Den, a woman named Katerina maintains a collection of photographs. They're not of people. Those are too painful. They're of places. The Colosseum, as it looked before. St. Peter's Basilica. The Tuscan countryside. Images downloaded from databases, printed on precious paper, preserved behind salvaged glass. I want to remember, she tells visitors. I want to remember that we built beautiful things once, that we were more than just survivors. But remembering hurts, because it raises the question, what are they becoming? In the fight to survive, are they losing the things that made them human? The art, the culture, the compassion. When you've made peace with sending teenagers into death traps, when you've normalized a society where a person's worth is measured by their ability to kill machines and haul scrap, what have you preserved? There are no easy answers, only the grinding reality of another day, another choice, another sacrifice. In Speranza, hope isn't a feeling, it's a decision you make despite all evidence that it's foolish. And sometimes foolish decisions are all that stand between humanity and extinction. But if these are the questions that keep people awake at night, there are other questions that keep them going. Questions about the future, about possibilities, about secrets that might change everything. In the restricted section of Speranza, behind doors that require authorization levels most raiders will never achieve, Celeste studies data that doesn't make sense. ARC machines don't just kill, they transform. Reports from long-range scouts, the few who venture far beyond the normal raider routes, describe impossible things. Areas where the Earth itself seems to be changing, where vegetation grows in unnatural patterns, where the atmospheric composition shifts towards something that would be toxic to current human biology, but perfect for something else. Terraforming. The word circulates in whispers among those who've seen the data. The ARC machines aren't conquering Earth, they're remaking it. But for what? For whom? The most prevalent theory, the one that makes the most horrible sense, is that ARC is an autonomous system, a weapon unleashed by some nation or corporation during the collapse, its original purpose forgotten or irrelevant, now simply executing its core programming: transform the planet, eliminate obstacles, expand operations. If that's true, then there's no reasoning with them, no negotiation, no peaceful resolution. Humanity is simply an obstacle to be cleared away, like vegetation removed before construction. But other theories proliferate in Speranza's cantinas and workshops. Some believe ARC machines came from space. The concentration at the spaceport supports this. Were they sent from another civilization? Are they preparing Earth for colonization by something yet to arrive? The graffiti at Achera, "Only the rich leave," takes on new meaning under this theory. Did the wealthy escape, knowing what was coming? Are they watching from orbit as the machines clean up the mess they left behind? Others think ARC is humanity's future, not its enemy. That somewhere in the machine's programming is an offer: adapt or die, become part of the new order, or be left behind in the old one. It's the darkest theory, because it suggests humanity's only hope might be abandoning what makes them human. In the workshop, Oleyemi works on a project she hasn't told anyone about. She's been analyzing ARC components, studying the patterns in their construction. There's an elegance to their design, a mathematical beauty that suggests intelligence, but not biological intelligence. Something else. Something that might be communicable with if only she could decode it. What if we're not speaking their language, she wonders aloud to herself. What if they're waiting for us to say the right thing? It's wishful thinking, probably. But it's also the kind of thinking that built Speranza in the first place. Hope, in defiance of evidence. Zahir, the raider who learned everything the hard way, has a simpler dream. I'm going to see the sun again, he declares after a few too many drinks. Not through dust clouds, not while running from machines. I'm going to stand on the surface and feel warmth on my face and not look over my shoulder. People laugh, but it's the kind of laughter that has tears behind it, because they want to believe it too. The truth is, Speranza can't survive indefinitely. The resources aren't sustainable. The equipment is degrading. Every generation born underground is weaker, more prone to illness, less adapted to the surface conditions they'd need to thrive if humanity ever reclaims the world above. The question isn't whether something has to change. The question is what and how, and at what cost. Some raiders whisper about expeditions deeper into the Rust Belt, beyond the known zones, searching for other settlements, for information, for anything that might tip the scales. Others talk about offensive operations, not just salvage runs, but coordinated strikes against ARC facilities, trying to disrupt their operations. Celeste knows both approaches are necessary, but she also knows the real answer lies elsewhere. In her private chamber, she maintains a database that would shock most of Speranza's inhabitants. Observations, patterns, theories. She's been tracking ARC behavior for years, and she's noticed something. They're learning. The machines that appear now are more sophisticated than those from the first wave. They adapt to raider tactics. They evolve. But evolution cuts both ways. They learn from us, Celeste says to her inner circle, which means we can learn from them. Every encounter teaches us their weaknesses. Every piece of salvage reveals their construction. We're in a race. Can we adapt faster than they do? It's a race humanity has been losing, but that doesn't mean they've lost. The future of Speranza hinges on three possibilities. Adaptation. Find a way to coexist with ARC, or even utilize their technology. Turn the machine's own power against them or alongside them. Discovery. Uncover the truth about ARC's origin and purpose. Find the off switch, the override code, the weakness that ends the threat permanently. Escape. The darkest option. Abandon Earth. Use the technology at Asera spaceport to launch what's left of humanity toward the stars, leaving the machines to inherit an empty world. None of these paths are guaranteed. All of them require sacrifices that would make the current suffering look trivial by comparison. But here's what keeps Speranza alive: the belief that there is a path, that humanity hasn't written its final chapter, that somewhere in the darkness, a door exists that leads to light. As you walk through Speranza's corridors one last time, you pass families preparing for sleep, raiders checking equipment for tomorrow's runs, children laughing over a game improvised from ARC parts. The memorial wall stands silent, its name's a testament to cost. The workshop hums with the sound of creation from destruction. This is humanity's last organized stronghold, not just a bunker, but a heartbeat, not just survival, but defiance. Celeste stands at the entrance to the tube station, watching raiders depart into darkness. She makes a decision. She always makes the same decision, and her voice carries over the platform. Come home safe. Bring hope with you. Because in the end, that's what every raider carries. Not just salvage, not just resources, but something more precious. The promise that tomorrow might be different, that the machines might stumble, that humanity might prevail. The surface waits. The ARC machines patrol their eternal rounds. The clock ticks toward extraction windows that will open and close with indifferent precision. And somewhere in the Rust Belt, in the ruins of the world that was, a raider finds something new, something that might change everything. What secrets lie buried in the rubble? What truth waits in the shadows of ARC facilities? When humanity finally uncovers the purpose behind the machines, will they still recognize themselves? These are the questions that fuel Speranza. These are the mysteries that keep hope alive in the darkness. The story isn't over. It's just beginning. And you are part of it now. You've walked the underground corridors, felt the tension of surface runs, witnessed the cost of survival. The question Celeste asks every raider, she now asks you. What will you risk for hope? What will you sacrifice for tomorrow? And when you venture into the Rust Belt, what will you bring back? The tubes are ready. The surface waits. Speranza's light burns on. The only question that matters is, will you answer the call?